Hi, this is Delegate Patrick Hope, and welcome back to a Week 6 update for the Virginia General Assembly here in Richmond. Last week we all passed our budgets. The House and Senate passed its prospective budgets, and this week negotiations are ongoing to try to bring the two sides together. We hope to see a final budget package sometime next week. But this week was still a very busy week here in Richmond. The Department of Justice, late on Friday of last week, unveiled its findings for how Virginia treats people with mental and physical disabilities. And their findings were startling. They found that Virginia treats people with disabilities, putting people in institutions, violates their civil rights under the Americans with Disabilities Act. It also found that we don't have nearly enough services in the community to bring people into the community from institutional care, but also to keep people who are already there, to continue to allow them to live and thrive in our community. So I took out to the House floor to make a floor speech about this Department of Justice finding, but also related back to our budget that we just passed and how our policies in Medicaid are costing us even more money in the long term. First, we make significant cuts to respite care, cap in the respite care hours that provides care for people in the community that allows them to stay in their homes. This is something that the Department of Justice made light of in its findings, and it's one that I'm very critical of in this budget. The second thing that the budget does that I think will grow the cost of Medicaid in the long term is it will cut by 4% the reimbursement that we pay to physicians, to hospitals, in our nursing homes. Last year, these providers were getting paid 72 cents on the dollar for Medicaid services. But under this budget, they'll get paid 60 cents on the dollar. And I believe that this will create access problems. Physicians who will either stop taking new Medicaid patients, or they'll stop seeing Medicaid patients altogether. What we've also seen in years past with these types of policies where we ratchet down reimbursement, we've seen hospitals be forced to close their obstetrical wings across the Commonwealth. Since 2003, about 15 or 16 hospitals have been forced to do this just to keep the rest of their hospitals' doors open for care to other people. And I hope that we don't make this same mistake twice. So I took to the floor and brought out these inaccuracies in the budget that I believe will end up costing us more money down the road. Medicaid budget has grown by 1,600% over the last 27 years, and I believe it is because of these policies that continue to cut money for Medicaid reimbursement, which in the end is self-defeating because it ends up costing us more money in the long term and costlier care down the road. In response to the Department of Justice findings and to my floor speech, the governor sent down a budget, House Bill 2553, which would create a trust fund for people with intellectual disabilities to put money into it so that we can bring people out of the training centers and put them in the community. The fund will also go towards putting more resources in the community to help keep people in the community, help make sure providers have enough resources to provide the kinds of supports necessary for people with intellectual disabilities and developmental disabilities to be successful in our community. And I look forward to working with the governor and on both sides of the aisle to make sure that we have enough money in the fund to do just that. Well, that concludes this week's wrap-up for the Virginia General Assembly. To follow my progress here in the remainder of the session or the budget progress, please visit my website at www.hopeforvirginia.org. Once again, thanks for listening, and I'll see you next week.